Welcome back, everyone, to the Wedge 52 Gridiron Podcast. I'm your host, Wedge. Today's episode will be the league-wide Week 11 recap, as well as after that, we'll get into the Week 11 Wedge 52 Gridiron Power Rankings, and then announce the HIM Performance of the Week, Week 11, and then quickly run into a Week 12 preview, thoughts, initial things to look for and watch for off the top of the head, and then get into my Week 12 picks. Before we jump in today, thank you all in advance for listening. Please make sure you press that follow button right here on Spotify, as well as share this podcast with your fellow NFL fans. Here we go. Let's jump into last week's Thursday night football matchup between the Ravens and the Bengals. The Ravens took down the Bengals 34-20. A couple of stats from that game. Joe Burrow, 11 for 17, 101 passing yards and a passing touchdown before leaving the game with an injury. Backup Jake Browning came in, went 8 for 14, 68 yards and a touchdown. It's looking like Browning will be their guy the rest of the season, as Joe Burrow has already been announced out for the remainder of the season. Joe Mixon had 16 carries for 69 yards on the night, as well as 5 catches for 31 yards and a touchdown. On the Ravens side of the ball, Lamar Jackson went 16 for 26, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions, as well as 9 carries for 54 yards. Gus the Bus Edwards, 12 carries for 62 yards, and another 2 touchdowns on the week. And Odell Beckham Jr., 4 catches for 116 yards. In Ravens injury news, Mark Andrews got injured, will most likely be done for the season as well. If you want a full analysis into the Ravens and Bengals Thursday night football matchup from Week 11, please check out yesterday's episode where I do a full look into the Baltimore Ravens previous matchup, as well as their next opponent, the Los Angeles Chargers. Moving on to the Bears and Lions rivalry. The Lions started off very slow, but came alive when it mattered. Final 3-4 minutes of the game, the Lions won that one 31-26. Justin Fields in his first game back after missing 4 weeks with a thumb injury. He went 10 for 23, 169 passing yards and a touchdown, as well as 18 carries for 104 yards. So he was definitely using his legs, as a weapon for him and that Bears offense. DJ Moore, 7 catches for 96 yards and a touchdown. Jared Goff, part of the reason the Lions started off struggling. 2-3 early interceptions. He finished the day 23 for 35, 236 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and finished the day with 3 interceptions. 2 of them, deep in their own territory there, towards the end zone, red zone, in that realm of yardage on the field. But they turned it up the last 3 minutes of the game with help from David Montgomery, who finished the day with 12 carries for 76 yards and a go-ahead touchdown, as well as 2 catches for 22 yards. And his running mate, Jahmyr Gibbs, had another very solid day. Rookie tailback really turning out to be quite a stud for the Detroit Lions. Had 8 carries for 36 yards and a touchdown, as well as 6 catches for 59 yards from Jared Goff. And then favorite target, at the wide receiver range for Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8 catches for 77 yards and a touchdown on the afternoon for him. Defensively, linebacker Anzalone had 15 tackles on the day for Detroit. And then Aiden Hutchinson off the edge, sealed up the game for the Detroit Lions with a strip sack on Justin Fields. That ball was, kicked, dribbled, accidentally went out of the back of the end zone for the game-sealing safety for those Detroit Lions. Next, the Titans got beat by the Jacksonville Jaguars 14-34. Will Levis went 13 for 17, 158 passing yards and 2 touchdowns on the day. Derrick Henry, 10 carries for just 38 yards. And DeAndre Hopkins, 4 catches for 59 yards and a touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins has been a very solid target for rookie wide receiver Will Levis. DeAndre Hopkins' production has certainly gone up since the Will Levis has been the starter there. Obviously, he had the big game in Levis's first career start, but not enough to translate to wins for the Tennessee Titans here. I think Levis is, I want to say 1-3 off the top of my head. So not quite translating there. But, in terms of Hopkins, his production has gone up there. And then on the other side of the ball, Trevor Lawrence had himself a day. 24 for 32, passing 262 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions through the air, as well as 5 rushes for 17 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then his main man, Calvin Ridley, was the recipient of both of those touchdowns from Trevor Lawrence through the air, finishing with 7 catches for 103 yards and, like I said, 2 touchdowns on the day. Moving to the Chargers and the Packers. Packers, and what I would kind of say was an upset, beat the Chargers 23-20. Justin Herbert, 21 for 36, 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and what seems like quite a bit more rushing yards than average per game for Herbert. 8 carries for 73 yards on the ground. Wide receiver Keenan Allen, 10 catches for 116 yards and a touchdown. And edge rusher Khalil Mack, 8 tackles and 2 sacks on the day for him. Not enough to get it done in a close battle against the Packers, where Jordan Love finished the day 27 for 40, 322 yards and 2 touchdowns. A rookie wide receiver who, I've been talking about, he's been picking it up. Jaden Reed, 3 rushes for 46 yards and a rushing touchdown, as well as 4 catches for 46 yards on the day. And then Aaron Jones went down with an injury. I want to say I saw the severity of that was not horrible, not season ending, I don't think. Could be wrong. But that is, I believe, the initial report I saw in terms of Aaron Jones there. And then the Commanders somehow lost to the Giants 31-19. Sam Howell, 31 for 45, 255 passing yards, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions, as well as 3 rushes for 35 yards and a touchdown on the day. Running back Brian Robinson, 17 carries for 73 yards, and another productive day out of, pass catching out of the backfield. 7 catches for 58 yards for him there. Where they struggled, that Washington offense had 6 turnovers. Obviously, the 3 interceptions by Howell, as well as 3 fumbles collectively for them, led to a lot of extra possessions for the New York Giants, who, you get 6 extra possessions, chances are in your favor to win that ball game. It'd be interesting to see, how many teams have gotten 6 takeaways and lost. My guess is very few to none. But Tommy DeVito, 18 for 26, 246 yards, 3 touchdown passes on the day, no interceptions. So good on him. Had a lot of help from running back Saquon Barkley, who had 14 carries for 83 yards, as well as 4 catches for 57 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns for the New York Giants. Wide receiver Darius Slayton had 4 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown. On the flip side, DeVito was sacked 9 times by that Washington defense. It's also, I'd also be curious to see how many times a team has allowed 9 sacks in one game. Probably higher chances, higher than my previous, curiosity. But still, I would assume the odds are not close to being in their favor there. The Dolphins beat the Raiders 20-13. First victory for the Dolphins coming against a team that was 500 or better. The Raiders were 5-5 heading into that matchup there on Sunday. They now fall to 5-6. Quarterback Aiden O'Connell and that Raiders offense had a couple of opportunities in the final couple minutes and were unable to execute on either try. O'Connell finished the day 24 for 41, 271 yards, a passing touchdown, and 3 interceptions, one of which came in the end zone. with, I want to say, a couple seconds left remaining. They were trying to push it. They were trying to get the touchdown for the potential tie. And he threw an interception across the middle of the field to Jalen Ramsey. Devontae Adams, 7 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown on the day. On the other side of that, Tua Tagovailoa, 28 of 39, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Running back Raheem Mostert, 22 carries for 86 yards, and Tyreek Hill, 10 catches for 146 yards and a touchdown. Offensively, those are the numbers for the Dolphins. They also had a couple of good single player performances by that defensive unit. One of which being Jalen Ramsey, who did have 2 interceptions on the day, had the game-sealing one at the end, as well as another earlier on a nice catch. And then linebacker Jalen Phillips has 6 tackles, 2 sacks, and an interception. He might be listed as an edge. I don't know. You get the point. 6 tackles, 2 sacks, and an interception on the day for Mr. Phillips there. And moving on to the Cardinals and Texans. This was a closer game than I'm sure that the hot Houston Texans thought it would be. But the Arizona Cardinals have been doing that all season long. They got the dub with Kyler Murray. He played this week. This week, not quite enough though. 21-16, the Texans take down the Cardinals in Kyler's second game back. He still played solid, and still, I think, raising some question marks and some decisions to make for that Cardinals GM staff, come April, in terms of their draft position, things like that. Kyler went 20 for 30, 214 passing yards, 8 touchdown and an interception, as well as 7 carries for 51 yards and a touchdown on the day. Running back James Conner, 14 carries for 62 yards. And the wide receiver Moore had 1 catch for 48-yard touchdown there for the Arizona Cardinals. Now on the other side, that C.J. Stroud kind of cooled off, still put up some good numbers, but had a few turnovers. 27 for 37, 336 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions on the day. So definitely the highest, interceptions rate we've seen out of C.J. Stroud, who I want to say only had, potentially 3 or less interceptions heading into that game, with 3 on the day against Arizona. Regardless, still good enough to get the job done. Good yards, a couple touchdown passes. Running back Devin Singletary, 22 carries for 112 yards and a touchdown. And then rookie wide receiver Tank Dell continues to impress with 8 catches for 149 yards and a touchdown. Linebacker for the Houston Texans, Blake Cashman, 19 tackles and a sack on the day there. Defensively, moving on to fellow AFC North divisional game here. The Browns beat the Steelers 13-10. Kenny Pickett, 15 for 28, 106 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Jalen Warren, 9 carries for 129 yards and a touchdown. The Steelers did fire offensive coordinator Matt Canada. I do think that was part of the problem, but I also believe Kenny Pickett is, the other part of that problem. Just a little bit of context. Tommy DeVito has the same amount of multiple game touchdown passing games as Kenny Pickett. C.J. Stroud already has more career touchdown passes than Kenny Pickett. There's definitely more stats of similar nature that go against Kenny Pickett. Dorian Thompson-Robinson got the start for the Browns as Deshaun Watson out for the season with that shoulder injury. 24 for 43, 165 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. Moore had 6 for 60. Running back Jerome Ford, 12 for 31 and a touchdown on the ground. And combined by the Steelers and the Browns offenses, they went 7 for 31 on third down. Success rate there. So definitely not ideal for either offense. As they look moving forward, definitely something they need to look at improving both there. with the Browns and Steelers. Moving to the Cowboys and the Panthers. Cowboys took care of business 33-10. Rookie quarterback Bryce Young, 16 for 29, 123 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Adam Thielen, 8 catches for 74 yards on the day. And then Dak Prescott, 25 for 38, 189 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. The Cowboys were up big, which meant we got to see an appearance from former Central Michigan quarterback Cooper Rush. Always good to see, fire up chips. And then Tony Pollard, 12 for 61 and a touchdown on the ground. CeeDee Lamb, 6 catches for 38 yards and a touchdown receiving. Micah Parsons had 6 tackles and 2.5 sacks coming off the edge for the Dallas Cowboys. And then Deron Bland with his 4th pick 6 of the season, only 11 weeks in. That ties the NFL record for most pick sixes in a season. It's going to be interesting to see if he can break that record. Definitely, will be a cool one to break for him if he is able to accomplish that. Moving to the 49ers and the Bucks. 49ers won that one 27-14. Baker Mayfield, 29 for 45, 246 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Running back Rachaad White, 9 carries for 30 yards and a touchdown, as well as a nasty juke move that unfortunately resulted in a torn ACL for 49ers linebacker Tufalongo. So unfortunate news for him. Nasty move by Rachaad White. And then Mike Evans, 5 catches for 43 yards and a touchdown. For the San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy showed up and meant business, shutting down the haters, or at least quieting them some. For this week, Brock Purdy, 21 for 25, 333 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, no interceptions, and a perfect 158.3 passer rating. Christian McCaffrey, 21 rushes for 78 yards, 5 catches for 25 yards, and a touchdown. George Kittle, 8 catches for 89 yards and a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk, 5 catches for 156 yards and a touchdown. Very big day for the 49ers offense, who got the ball to all of their, top weapons, found the end zone for all of their top weapons there. Seahawks lost to the Rams 16-17. A little bit of a shocker, but the Rams have been playing well. Still a shocker to me. Geno Smith, 22 for 34, 233 yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions. Kenneth Walker suffered an oblique injury early in the game. So see how that develops, what that means for him and the Seattle Seahawks. And wide receiver DK Metcalf had potentially his best game of the season. 5 catches for 94 yards and a touchdown. On the other side of that, Matthew Stafford, 17 for 31, 190 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Royce Freeman had 17 carries for 73 yards on the ground, and Puka Nacua had 5 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown for him. Their other, wide receiver Cooper Kupp did suffer an ankle injury. We'll see how severe that is and see how reports or what reports develop from that one. Almost done here. 3 more games on the week. First off, the Bills beat the Jets 32-6. Zach Wilson, 7 for 15, 81 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. He got benched for Tim Boyle, who has been announced the starter for their next matchup on Black Friday against the Dolphins. And then other than that, really, Breece Hall, 10 carries for 23 yards, 5 catches for 50 yards, and a touchdown. And then for the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, 20 for 32, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Running back James Cook, 17 carries for 73 yards. And wide receiver Shakir, 3 catches for 115 yards and a touchdown. And then running back Ty Johnson. Wide receiver Ty Johnson, 3 catches for 47 yards and a touchdown. Kind of blanking if he's wide receiver or running back. He had a touchdown. Good job, Ty Johnson. Vikings and Broncos. Broncos won that one. At the end of the game, 21-20 there. It was a close game all throughout the Broncos. Cortland Sutton, specifically showed up in the clutch with 2 very nice catches. Nice one-hander on 4th down, I believe, on the final drive. And then the go-ahead touchdown. Josh Dobbs, 20 for 32, 221 yards, a touchdown and an interception, as well as 8 rushes for 21 yards and a touchdown for the Vikings. Alexander Madison, 18 carries for 81 yards, and Chandler, 19 carries for 73 yards on the day there. Russell Wilson, 27 for 35, 259 yards, and a touchdown. And then Cortland Sutton, like I said, 4 catches for 66 yards and a touchdown. And then the Monday Night Football Super Bowl rematch. The Eagles beat the Chiefs 21-17 in Kansas City. It was a good game. Patrick Mahomes went 24 for 43, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, as well as 6 rushes for 38 yards and several drops by Kansas City pass catchers. Pacheco had 19 carries for 89 yards. Tight end Watson had 5 catches for 53 yards and a touchdown, at least 2 drops. That I remember. Travis Kelce, 7 catches for 44 yards and a touchdown, as well as a drop as well. Marquez Valdes-Scantling had a go-ahead touchdown on their final, possession for the Chiefs. Dropped it. Chiefs lead the league in drops this year with 26 drops so far on this season. On the other side, Jalen Hurts, 14 for 22, 150 passing yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. But rushing, he did have 12 carries for 29 yards and 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift continued to produce 12 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown. And Devontae Smith, 6 catches for 99 yards. Eagles safety Byard, 8 tackles and an interception for that Eagles secondary there. So that's the Week 11 recap stats, thoughts on every single Week 11 matchup. Next up will be the week, heading into the Week 12 power rankings. Coming in at 32nd this week is the Carolina Panthers. At 31 is the Chicago Bears. At 30 is the New England Patriots. At 29, the Giants. 28, the Titans. 27, the Packers. 26, the Cardinals. 25, the Buccaneers. 24, the Rams. 23, the Jets. 22, the Colts. 21, the Raiders. 20, the Falcons. 19, the Broncos. 18, the Commanders. 17, the Chargers. 16, the Steelers. 15, the Saints. 14, the Vikings. 13, the Seahawks. 12, the Bengals. 11, the Texans. 10, the Browns. 9, the Bills. 8, the Jags. 7, the Dolphins. 6, the Cowboys. At number 5, the Detroit Lions. At number 4, San Francisco 49ers. And then the top 3 remain the same. Third being the Baltimore Ravens. Second being the Kansas City Chiefs. And number 1 being the Philadelphia Eagles. This week's biggest movers, plus-wise, was the Broncos and the Bills, both moving up plus 4 spots. And then this week's biggest losers, biggest droppers, the Colts at -2. They didn't even play a game, but just by default, a couple other teams climbed over them. And then the Browns at -2 as well. They did get the victory against the Steelers, but kind of by default. And it was 3-point. The Browns dropped by 2. It's gonna be interesting for the Browns and the Bengals as well, how the rest of their season plays out, dealing with, backup quarterbacks from here on out the rest of this season. So that's my power rankings for the week. Now moving into the Week 11 hymn performance of the week. A couple of candidates that, were, names thrown out there, names to be considered for this week's award include Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley, Saquon Barkley, Deron Bland, Brock Purdy, and Blake Cashman. On this week's hymn performance of the week goes to quarterback Brock Purdy from the San Francisco 49ers. He went 21 for 25, 333 passing yards, 3 touchdowns on a perfect 158.3 passer rating. Spreading the love, getting the touchdowns to all of his big targets. Kittle, Ayuk, CMC, running the offense that 49ers team runs to perfect execution this week. Perfect passer rating and only 4 incompletions by quarterback Brock Purdy. Congratulations on being this week's him performance of the week. That now moving on to the Week 12 quick preview thoughts. Just a couple of things I'm looking for. Everything off the top of the head. Every single team is in action this week. 16 matchups for Week 12, including 3 on Thanksgiving, starting with the Packers at Lions. This one will be, it's classic for the Lions. Every Thanksgiving, Lions are playing. This one, divisional game. Packers team that, has been, been average to below average the entire season against a Lions team that is very hot. Number 2 seed, I believe, in the NFC. Top 5 team in the league. Playing on Thanksgiving, with some more pride, hopefully this year, than, in recent years, in history for the Detroit Lions. The Commanders play at Cowboys, another, classic tradition for the Cowboys to host, along with those Lions. Commanders coming in on this one after, struggling with turnovers, facing a very good Cowboys defense. They're going to have a lot to work for on that offensive side in terms of protecting the ball, protecting their possession, and then the Cowboys as well. Moving up in my power rankings, I've been beating some teams big, beating some teams that are, towards the bottom of the barrel, but this will be a, chance for them to show that they can play better against better teams as well. Commanders probably average, middle of the pack. But a big test for the Cowboys to continue to show consistency here. And then the Thursday night football for the Thanksgiving matchup, 49ers at Seahawks. Seattle coming off a kind of stunning win against a 49ers team that is hot after their bye week. The past 2 weeks, the 49ers have really, showed up, after that 3-game losing streak. Brock Purdy is showing he's able to be the quarterback, whether it be system quarterback. He's the best system quarterback there is right now, if that's what you want to call him. Coming off the perfect passer rating against a Seattle defense. That played pretty decent against the Rams, but not good enough to get the job done. Dolphins head to New York, New Jersey, to play the New York Jets on Black Friday. That's a 3 p.m. kickoff. Interesting one there. First ever Black Friday game for the NFL. We'll see if that Dolphins team puts a beatdown on the New York Jets, who are struggling mightily. It'll be quarterback Tim Boyle behind the helm. And I believe Zach Wilson has been pushed to 3rd string. So don't expect to see him if Boyle does struggle. The Jags at Texans. This is our Sunday matchups now. Jags at Texans. This one will be a good one. Houston Texans have been playing very well. Quarterback C.J. Stroud, probably a top 5 MVP candidate at this point in the season. Jaguars have played well this season, have a very good record, but haven't played, top-tier teams necessarily, in my opinion. I think the Texans, could be potentially their biggest, opponent so far, if not second biggest opponent they faced this season. It's going to be a good test to see how legit the Jacksonville Jaguars can be. Steelers at Bengals. First game with Browning as the starting quarterback for the Bengals. First game for the Steelers offense without Matt Canada. I would not expect a lot of offensive production from either side. I think there'll be some positive plays, a couple explosive plays. I would not be surprised if the score is, under 35 points combined score, 17-14, 17-10 type of final score. Panthers play the Titans in Tennessee. This one, Panthers have been struggling. They just got beat by the Dallas Cowboys pretty bad. But the Titans have not, they have not been putting up great production and, results either. This one could be a sneaky one, the battle of two poor teams. We'll see which one comes out on top. Saints at Falcons is an interesting one, not only because of, both of these teams, playing pretty solid, not playing great, not playing bad, playing solid, as well as the division, implications that this one can have. I would say right now the Saints and the Falcons are probably going to be the two that, are duking it out for the division for that playoff spot. I think the Buccaneers are a game or two back at this point. But if the Bucs get hot, they could also take the division. Saints and Falcons, I think, will have a role on deciding who wins that division this year. Speaking of the Bucs, they head to Indianapolis to play the Colts this week. Colts are on a bye, so hopefully they rested up. And the Bucs just, they lost to the 49ers. Very good offensive performance by the Niners. Mike Evans been playing good. Rashad White has been putting up impressive numbers the past 3 or 4 weeks for him. So we'll see, how that matchup goes. With the Colts surprisingly releasing Shaq Leonard. Kind of came out of nowhere. Shaq Leonard, I know he's had a couple of health problems, but been very productive when he is on the field. It'll be interesting to see if more information regarding the, reasoning behind that mid-season release come out in the next week or two. And then the Patriots played the Giants in New York. Two poor teams. The Patriots coming off a bye. Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones is starting. Honestly, don't know. I honestly don't think it makes a difference if it's Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi. They're both poor. The Giants, after looking like they were going to be a dumpster fire, somehow managed to put together a solid performance behind quarterback Tommy DeVito, and he got his first career victory and his second game with multiple passing touchdowns. Be interesting to see if he can continue that against a Patriots defense that has been struggling, been depleted with a couple of injuries this season. The Browns play the Broncos in Denver. That'll be an interesting one. Browns, Dorian Thompson-Robinson will get the start yet again. And then Russell Wilson and that Broncos offense has been looking very good, the past 6-7 weeks. But what's been more surprising is the Broncos defense has been stepping up. I think they had 2 or 3 takeaways versus the Vikings. But then the 2 weeks prior to that, I want to say they had 4 takeaways and 5 takeaways. So 10 takeaways, give or plus a couple, give or plus 2 maybe. The past 3 weeks for that Broncos offense, or defense, is a major contribution to why the Broncos have been rising in my Wedge 52 Gridiron Power Rankings. The Rams play the Cardinals. These ones are always closer games in that division than expected. The Rams, Rams have been performing, I would say, as I expected them to before the season. Just beat divisional opponent Seahawks. The Cardinals, I think, have been playing above my expectations. Don't have the record to show for it, but have been in almost every single game so far this season. They got Kyler Murray back and have been looking good with him the first couple of weeks. So it'll be an interesting one to see if the Cardinals can sneak a victory here. Although, they also have some draft, ordering to kind of consider. Me personally, I always say go for the win. Worry about the draft later. We'll see what happens. I think that'll be a close game between the Rams and the Cardinals. The Bills head to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. This will be a good game. We'll see if the Bills can, produce against a good team. They've struggled against better teams so far this season. Hopefully, for their sake, got their kind of feet on the ground against the Jets. Help them at least stay in that divisional race with the Miami Dolphins. We'll see if they can perform against that Eagles defense, who's been playing very, very good all season. And then the Eagles, they just came off a Monday Night Football victory against the reigning Super Bowl champs, Kansas City Chiefs. So they are, I'm sure, fired up and locked in to continue that winning streak, continue being the top seed in the NFC. The Chiefs play the Raiders in Las Vegas. Mahomes has not lost many games to divisional opponents. He has also not lost, if any, maybe once, back-to-back games in his career. I think that's pretty much all that needs to be said on the Chiefs, at least Patrick Mahomes. The Raiders, on the other hand, have improved since the firing of their coach, but did struggle last week against the Dolphins just a little bit, although they were in it at the end. It'll be interesting to see what Raiders offense, comes to play against the Chiefs, who have, one of the better defenses, sleeper, one of the best defenses, better, probably 8 to 13-ish range, I would say, in terms of defensive team production, at least numbers-wise. For the Raiders, if they want to have a shot at this game, they need to feed Devontae Adams. They need to feed Josh Jacobs. Both of those guys are very, very good at their position and can help rookie quarterback Aiden O'Connell, win that game. Sunday Night Football is the Ravens at the Los Angeles Chargers. The Ravens are the new top seed in the AFC after the Chiefs lost. To me, as a Ravens fan, I don't care until the final 2 weeks. But it is a cool thing to see. It is a little bit of bragging rights. Playing the Chargers, who just, I'm sure, are feeling like they got upset by the Green Bay Packers. Chargers have been struggling to find a W so far this season. If you want the full analysis into my thoughts on the Ravens at Chargers Sunday Night Football matchup, please check out yesterday's episode right here on the Wedge 52 Gridiron and press that follow button while you're at it. Heading into the Monday Night Football matchup, the divisional game between the Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings, this will be an interesting one. Josh Dobbs has played very well, and the Bears were leading most of that game. First game back for Justin Fields. We're leading that game against the Detroit Lions, who are a top 5 ranked team in the league. Leading until the final 3 minutes behind Justin Fields. We have seen that a few times so far this season, with Chicago Bears blowing very big leads late in that game. So we'll see how that one shakes out over there in Minnesota. That's a quick thoughts on Week 12 matchups. Like I said, every single team in action. With only one thing left in this episode, and that is to give my Week 12 picks. Last week, Week 11, I went 10-4. Second straight week, being back in the double-digit wins columns. So definitely good to see there. On the season, I am 106-58 overall. That's good for a 646 win percentage. Pretty good in my opinion. Here is my Week 12 picks. I got Lions over Packers, Cowboys over Commanders, 49ers over Seahawks, Dolphins over Jets, Texans over Jaguars, Steelers over Bengals, Panthers over Titans, Falcons over Saints, Buccaneers over Colts, Giants over Patriots, Broncos over Browns, Rams over Cardinals, Eagles over Bills, Chiefs over Raiders, Ravens over Chargers, and Vikings over Bears. That's all I have for today's episode of the Wedge 52 Gridiron. Thank you all so much for listening. If you made it this far, please smash that follow button right here on Spotify, as well as check out the Instagram at Wedge 52 Gridiron and share this podcast with your fellow NFL and Baltimore Ravens fans. Go Ravens.